I'm Maddie Myers.
I'm Jason Schreier.
And I'm Kirk Hamilton. And hello.
Hello.
Hi.
It's been a long journey, but we made it here. Back to
It's
Ithaca.
been 20, 21-ish years.
10 of them just spent on a beach, apparently.
Our podcast child is grown up.
7 of them on a beach.
No, 10 of them on a beach outside Troy. And then 7 on a
right.
beach.
Yes, 7 on a different beach.
7 on a more hospitable beach with Charlize Theron
Yeah, I think
doing drugs and having sex.
given those two choices, I think I would go with the Charlize Theron one.
At least
Have a better
as
beach.
depicted in this movie, definitely the Charlize Theron one, and maybe also as depicted in the original poem, but we'll get into it. We're, of course, talking about the Odyssey today, but before we even get into that, just want to say thank you. You are a member, and we appreciate you. And we watched the Odyssey, and probably so did you, or you just want to hear what we think about it, even if you didn't
Based
see it.
on the numbers of the people going to this movie, probably so did you.
You probably saw it, but hey, if you just want to listen, that's fine too. We do all know the story of the Odyssey. And that's something that I figured we'd start off talking about today is by talking about our history with the Odyssey as a poem and a cultural artifact, and then we can talk about what we each thought about the movie. So I'll start off with my Odyssey, the poem history. I'm an English major, so I had to read the Odyssey multiple times, and then when I saw this movie, which I'll just go ahead and say I really enjoyed, I came home and was like, I just want to read the Odyssey again. And so I did that. I read the Odyssey again before we recorded this very episode, specifically the Emily Wilson translation, which is notable for being written in both iambic pentameter and also really plain language. So it's a real breezy read, which I would say recommends it a lot. So yeah, I love the Odyssey. I love all versions of it. I think it's a really cool story, and we're going to talk about why it's so resonant today. Kirk, what's your history with the Odyssey, the poem?
I studied it in high school, but didn't read the whole thing. And I believe that was before the Emily Wilson translation.
Yeah,
so
that
I'm
one's
not sure
pretty
what
recent.
translation I would have been reading, and then just went to see the movie. So I've absorbed a lot of different scenes from it. I think I read some kind of illustrated version of it also when I was a kid. And then I'm just very familiar with the most famous sequences that are depicted in the movie, the Cyclops, the Sirens, and am just aware of the Iliad and the Odyssey. Though I've never seen Troy, actually. Also,
Oh
the
yeah,
movie
I've
that
actually
is-
also seen Troy. I saw it in cinemas for some
Apparently people
reason.
are watching Troy a lot after seeing the Odyssey, and also apparently that movie isn't very good. So
No,
people are
not a great film.
People are watching it
Not
after
good.
the Odyssey and being like, oh, this wasn't as good.
Not
as
hitting
the
at
Odyssey.
all.
Well, but fun fact, Christopher Nolan was originally slated to direct that movie, and then he
really?
got taken off of it for another director, and as a consolation, he was given a little old movie called Batman Begins.
Yeah, and we all know how that
That went
turned.
okay, I think, for him and his career.
out.
Jason, how about you? What's your Odyssey?
So
History.
so are you guys familiar with this book that I'm holding up? This is
Yes.
Dolores' Book of Greek Myths, a classic, a real classic with some just incredible illustrations. I adored this book as a child so much that I went and bought a more modern, like a modern version to give to my children. This is a book that has a lot of Greek mythology in it, most of the big ones, including the entire story of the Odyssey, just kind of summed up in a few pages because it's more meant for kids. And so that was my main exposure to that story, is just reading this particular book of Greek myths over and over again. So I knew the whole story from that, but no, I never read the poem or anything. I find poems pretty difficult to enjoy. I'm a voracious reader, but I only of prose, I would say.
Not into poetry.
Yeah, I will say if you're going to read one, the Emily Wilson version, despite being in iambic pentameter, does not rhyme. And because it's in plain language, it just kind of, it's a real breeze to read. But I also, the other versions of the Odyssey that I read were very ornately written. And that can be a tough hang. And I think that something we're going to get into today is Nolan's decision to also have a lot of the movie be in plain language, which is probably the only thing about the movie that I have some mixed feelings about. Otherwise, I thought it was really cool. And I enjoyed the heck out of it. And even though it was 3 hours, I did not notice the time for most of it and truly was like, this is incredible. And I love this ride that I'm on. And even though it has a lot of really unusual differences from the original poem, I think those differences say a lot about the message that Nolan wanted to send and the themes that he wanted to include. And we can get into those as we talk about the film, but I think that the changes are also really cool. So Kirk, what did you think of the movie? You saw it twice. You're the only one of us who saw it twice, I think. Lucky.
Yeah, I loved it. And I loved it even more the second time. I saw this movie 2 times. My nieces were in town and really wanted to see it with us. So we found tickets for a morning IMAX screening, and I went and saw it the first time in IMAX. Not IMAX 70 millimeter, just regular IMAX, because there are a variety of different formats for this movie, which is a little bit interesting.
How many millimeters is regular IMAX?
Yeah, I feel
I
like
can't remember, but it's a little bit cropped in some way. And so it is close to the ultimate way to see it. But there are only a handful of theaters in the world that can show it in the full, true IMAX 70 millimeter, which Nolan famously shot this entire movie in IMAX, which has never been done before, or he certainly has not done it, for a feature like this. He would add more and more IMAX sequences to his films. But, like in Oppenheimer, for example, all of the sequences with the bomb going off, that was all shot in IMAX with IMAX cameras. But other parts of the movie were shot with regular cameras. This entire movie shot with IMAX cameras, apparently quite a technical feat. So first viewing was in IMAX. I really liked it. I was pretty overwhelmed by it. It's really overwhelming in IMAX. Did either of you see this movie in IMAX?
No, just the regular way.
Okay. It's quite intense. It's huge. It's really loud in IMAX, and a pretty cool first way to see it. And then I had already bought tickets to see it with some friends at the Hollywood Theater in Portland, which can show films in 70 millimeters, which is notably different from 35 millimeters. So yet another format for this movie that's somewhat rare. So I saw it in 70 millimeters at the Hollywood Theater the second time and loved it. I was so happy to see it a second time. It really clarified the themes, the story, the narrative and the script for me, and made that all tie together better. The sound mix was much more intelligible, and it was also kind of a more fun theater experience. It was completely sold out, and the Hollywood is just a regular movie theater. So there are laugh lines in this movie that actually landed in that theater where everyone would laugh. There are some kind of moments where everyone would get excited. I could feel the audience a lot more that second time. And then I was just following the story a lot better and was very happy to have that second viewing. So I loved it both times, but in particular the second time.
Best moment when Odysseus shoots an arrow straight into the neck of Polybus, the suitor.
Yes, we've been waiting for that guy to get it the entire movie, and then you're Odysseus.
You're reminding me, Kirk, that when I saw it in the theater, the guy next to me was literally pumping his fists at various points in ways that I think were purely involuntary, and it was very endearing. It definitely charged me up. He was way into the movie. Seeing a movie in cinemas, nothing like it. So Jason,
turns out people are really into it based on a few different movies lately, but this one in particular.
So Jason, what did you think about the movie?
I absolutely loved this movie. Everything about it. I want to go see it again immediately.
Yeah, I recommend it.
Yeah, it's so
if
good.
you loved it the first time, you'll love it the second time.
It's like when you have source material this strong, you kind of have an unfair advantage, but Nolan is such a good filmmaker, and you can see so many of the tricks and techniques and styles that he's learned over the years just playing into this. I mean, even just on a structural level, his playing with nonlinear storytelling over the years really pays off here. I think it's executed extremely well, and it's never confusing. I think I never saw Memento, but from what I've heard, it can be a little bit confusing, and I think this is way more straightforward than nonlinear. Like, it's a very well executed nonlinear storytelling, and also just kind of like he has this classic thing that he does the most in Inception, but he does this in a few movies where there'll be one kind of like fulcrum point scene that we'll keep seeing little clips of over the course of the movie, and it's usually an emotional anchor in some way, and when we finally see the entire thing, it changes the nature of what we thought a certain certain character was doing or behaving or thinking about or whatever. And in this case, it's the Battle of Troy, which we keep getting clips of throughout the movie. And then it's finally revealed towards the end why Odysseus has gotten all this PTSD. And we see the whole thing, and we see that the Athena that he's been seeing is actually the manifestation of this priestess that they killed, that his men killed. And to me, that was extremely well done. And yeah, I mean, I loved every moment of it. The fact that it was 3 hours and like I didn't feel the need to like look at my phone or go to get a pre-break or like I never felt like 3 hours. I think that is such a triumph in and of itself that that he made a 3 hour movie that never once felt like 3 hours.
Yeah, totally agree. I also really appreciated the use of music in that moment and the tying together of the siren song with the sacking of Troy. That was a nice reveal. I see Kirk smiling, I'm sure.
Can I talk about that a little bit?
Please. Version of the Odyssey, like Zeus's Law, is another thing that is like really present in this. That's also in the original. And the concept of like being polite to people, to outsiders. And at many, many points, Odysseus and his men are not polite to polite house guests.
Well, and their hosts are not polite to them.
True.
I mean, it's
very true.
Because the world has kind of fallen before the point of this story. Like again and again, they arrive somewhere and are just immediately set upon, turned into pigs, murdered. I mean, it's clear that like something is wrong. They show up saying, "Hey, we're here. Maybe we're nice Greeks, you know. I'm Himesh Patel. I seem nice, right?" But then there's no time for them to even prove good intention. And they just are immediately treated with hostility.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the implication there is that they violated the law so badly in Troy. They violated this concept of Zeus's law so badly in their original sin that the world is punishing them accordingly.
Yeah.
Yes, to burn the walls of Troy was to burn the world entire, to break Zeus's law forever.
Is that a quote from the movie?
Yes.
Yeah, which I think is probably the biggest change in this movie from the poem, and it is something
and the central
that
idea as
undergirds the entire story, which is the idea that the Trojan horse, rather than being Odysseus's genius moment and like kind of the thing that makes him like almost the super heroic character that is kind of described as such by people, is instead something that he sees as a big problem and like a violation of Zeus's law to a degree that he feels personal shame for it. And that is something that he carries with him for the entire story, as opposed to it being like kind of cool, like this cool thing that he did that everybody
By the way,
likes
he
him
can't
for.
be that much of a genius if it took him 10 years of sitting on a beach to figure this out. Like you would think it would take him a little less time.
Yeah, is Odysseus really that smart? Let's get into it.
Yeah, come on, 10 years?
Those 10 years are glossed over somewhat, and they kind of just say it at one point. We've been on this beach for 10 years, and you're like, 10 years?
10
like,
years
really? That is a long
beach
time. That beach doesn't have a lot on it. Like, what are you eating?
That's a lot of sand.
And like they really could not even get inside Troy in this version of the story. Like they literally couldn't get in at all. And like the battle is essentially a stalemate because they can't even get past the gates at all. So the only solution is
you kind of have to just let that part go. But yeah, that idea of a single man having one idea that's so great and terrible that it breaks the world is, of course, also the theme of Oppenheimer, which is explored very similarly. And I think that this movie, as much as it's in conversation with a lot of Nolan's work, there are echoes certainly of Inception in a lot of this movie, which has kind of come to be my favorite of Nolan's. And I guess we should reference or mention here that we did an episode on Nolan's movies. There's
we did.
A little more of us talking about Chris Nolan from a year or two
We've watched
ago.
a lot of Nolan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we've done some of the homework to get ready for this. So while this movie is in conversation with Inception, going to a beach with a beautiful woman and like living in a fantasy world that you eventually have to wake up for being one big part, and just a man trying to get home.
Even a talisman, even his little talisman.
Yeah,
that
a
he's
man
always
trying
holding.
to get home to his family and being, trapped in exile, of course. Also a very common theme. I mean, also in Interstellar, something that comes up again and again. Clearly it's something that Nolan worries about or
It's wife
kind
guys.
of fascinates him.
Wife guys all over.
Wife, yeah, he's a family man for
Yeah.
sure. And he does love his family, which is something I find very endearing about him. him. But I think that this movie thematically is very in conversation with Oppenheimer. Another, I think, just excellent movie that I want to rewatch. Another very long movie that did not feel long to me when I was watching it. And another movie that just is fascinated by this idea that one man can have an idea an idea that wins a war too, like an idea that leads to violence that's so outside of what he thought he was doing that his cleverness becomes a curse and he damns a whole civilization. I mean, that this is really a tragedy. I find the ending of this movie to be so sad and it's so tragic, and it really makes I think that this is very much about the world we live in today and what's happening in our world today. And it's so interesting that it became a culture war flashpoint for very superficial reasons, when in fact it's such a strong condemnation of so much of what the right wing in America and all these people in political power are doing.
Yeah, man, it's so funny. The culture war stuff is, I don't really want to talk about that, but it's just so funny because it was controversy over these characters that have like 2 lines in the entire movie, which is just so funny.
Yeah, if anything, I was sad that Lupita Nyong'o didn't get more to do in the movie, because I think she's so good as Helen and Clytemnestra in the very, very brief scenes that she gets to play those 2 characters.
So Kirk, to your point about the ending, when he's talking about how like the bards will sing these songs because no one will remember how to write, I immediately thought of ChatGPT and AI, and how that just felt like a subtle condemnation of this world where like nobody knows how to write because the machines do it for them.
It's in keeping with Nolan's politics. Famously, he has not owned a smartphone. He does not use text or email. Like, he's really a true Luddite in so many respects and has so much kind of intense feeling about that. Like, people can look that up and find that to be true of him and how he feels about technology.
Well, I do think that's true about his views of technology. I read this story to be a lot about immigration and about how we treat immigrants and people coming to our country, because that is the big theme of this movie, is that when someone comes to you and they need something, you treat them as though they're a god in disguise. You have to open your house to them and take care of them. And then throughout the movie, nobody does that. And that's what's happening in America right now. Like, that's what's happening in the world. Not only are we, and then we're also, of course, we're like waging war in Iran and attacking people for like literally no reason. And so like we're both waging war abroad and not welcoming people to our home. And that kind of is how a civilization begins to fall. I mean, there is this, like, the end of the Bronze Age and the like 400 odd years of darkness that came afterward. That's a real thing that Nolan is fascinated with. And I think he almost feels as though he found in history one of those little Nolan keys that you mentioned, Jason. This is just reading interviews with him in this discussion of the people from the sea, and how the people from the sea are a phenomenon that is in history of like something happened and there were just like raiders coming from the sea that just caused various, kingdoms to fall, and this kind of, interlocking sort of not globalist, but a similar kind of like broader order to collapse, because, just someone was attacking. And he's like, it's actually a pretty credible theory that the people from the sea were just kind of themselves, because there probably wasn't some external force. It was just a series of different things that led this society to collapse and lose written language and to take so long to come back. And then he's basically saying this has happened before and this can happen again. I mean, the final line of this movie, right, is a new dawn will break over the darkened world and our mistakes will once again be forgotten. It's incredibly chilling. Like, it is. It's funny, Maddie, you wrote restoration fantasy in the themes. I see this movie as an anti-restoration fantasy. This is a movie about breaking a civilization and not being able to fix it. And as triumphant as that homecoming at the end is, it's truly tragic in the end. And Telemachus is not going to be able to like return Ithaca to glory. The world is falling into darkness and the Bronze Age is over.
Yeah, I also think that this movie does